This is Ohio.
This is Ohio.
So, Jack, you had an idea for a story that involved the coming of spring.
I did, and I wanted to tell the story of a neighbor who taught me to see the signs of spring in central Ohio. Julie Mulroy, she's a retired biology professor, a community organizer, and I think a fierce noticer of backyard wildlife.
I know Julie well. I really look forward to her social media posts about what's going on in her backyard. What's this talk of a piebald deer?
Oh, Doug, that deer was the talk of the town, and no one knew more about him than Julie. My neighbor Julie and I noticed it at about the same time. A mostly white deer with some brown spots. From a distance, it looked like a small cow or a goat. Whatever it was special. Julie would post photos on social media. Folks would comment, and she'd explain in her typical, straightforward but supremely erudite manner. I posted some photos too, and we'd compare notes, but she always seemed ahead of me. Better photos, better observations. Eventually, I learned from her that it was a piebald deer, a deer with a genetic difference that causes patches of white across its body.
It tied together people that have seen the piebald deer, so that I have new neighbors right across the circle. And the first interaction I had with them was a photo of it in her front yard.
I wasn't the only one following Julie's posts. A whole community was watching, and she was watching the community.
So I've kind of got a map of where people have reported it. And then I looked at an aerial or satellite photo, and I could see that there's this green highway from about Joy Lane on this side of Berg that curves around to here. So I think the deer do this rotational grazing, that they'll stay in my area, my view, for several days, and then I won't see them for several days because they've gone on to mow down somebody else's.
Julie's been posting photos of wildlife from her backyard for years. She's endured serious health issues that have limited her mobility and compelled her to retire early. But she's never stopped observing the world outside her window and posting what she sees. I learned about snowdrops and winter aconite from Julie. I learned that we have foxes nearby. The number of photos she posted seemed to tick upward during the pandemic. I'd frequent her page because I, too, was paying closer attention to my backyard, to the birds and plants, to the spring. There wasn't much else to do. Julie was watching from a perch in her kitchen, a large window overlooking a backyard sloping down to the woods.
It's like having a wildlife viewing platform and also botanical viewing platform. And I think I've always been an observer. You know, I used to love to, if somebody was doing any kind of field project, I'd love to go out with them and watch what they were doing and add to it if I could.
Julie had learned how to use social media in a powerful way before many of us had to rely on it during the pandemic.
It started when I had a period that I basically was confined to my bed. And I forget what it was, after a surgery or something like that. And I decided it was time to learn about Facebook. And I noticed that two people that I knew from very different parts of my life were somehow connected. So they'd like each other's posts, or they would elevate them, and I thought, how did they know each other? So then I had to figure that out, and so I followed the sort of social media breadcrumbs. Then I got interested in the community. So I think I was really interested in how it connected people in ways that were important. I'm a plant population ecologist, so I'm interested in how individual plants of the same species interact with each other and how that affects them. And I think it's something I'm interested in humans also. That's kind of the level of organization of the world that interests me the most, is how individuals connect or disconnect, or how groups break down. I've been I was very interested in how many groups, churches, failed during the pandemic. I mean, they couldn't make that transition from in-person to digital and then out of it again.
In summer 2020, Julie helped me when I was reporting on protests across Ohio. She kept a close eye on upcoming events. She was my fixer. If not for her research, I wouldn't have found many of the protests in small towns that I reported from. Do you know what today is?
About like
Well, it's the day that George Floyd was killed.
Yeah, we're just...
Right.
Yes.
But I don't actually remember that summer I was reporting on, on protests, especially in rural Ohio and in small towns. And you were pivotal in helping me find them. And I wanted to bring that up because it's one of the things that I really admire about you. There's lots of things I admire, but one of the things I admire is your ability to use social media in ways that are productive and useful and community building, which is what it can do. And I think that's great. You've already talked about all the ways that that's happened. But that summer, I remember, there were so many things happening. It was hard to know when things were happening, whatever. And you were so great at hey, did you hear about this thing? Did you hear about that thing?
But do you remember how it started?
No, I don't.
Yeah, so you said, hey, how come I only hear about these things after they happen? And you are posting about it while they're happening or before they happen. And so you asked me to let you know. So that was just an easy ask.
Julie taught for many years at Denison, where I teach. And there's ample evidence, from word on the street to my own interactions with her, that she was a beloved teacher. The kind of teacher who takes a young person's ideas and inquiries seriously. The kind of teacher who pushes gently and helps students grow into more thoughtful and inquisitive human beings. It's something I can tell that she misses.
So I think I miss the interactions with young people. I think my favorite thing actually was advising, being an advisor of people that I knew, especially of people that I knew in class, and watching them develop and grow and learn they didn't have to go into business as their father thought they had to. So that means they didn't have to be an econ major. That means they could, that was something I enjoyed and still get satisfaction from seeing these gray-haired people on social media or when they come back for reunions and see that I was right.
She doesn't go far, but Julie is an explorer nonetheless. Every season opens new worlds for her to observe and decode, and as the climate changes, the world transforms, and so too do the smaller worlds of our own backyards. Old weather patterns confront new ones, old plants interact with new ones. To Julie, it's all magic and worthy of notice. Like that piebald. One definition of the word piebald is composed of incongruous parts, which could also describe what we're observing all around us right now, for better or worse. How will the parts interact? How will we?
Music for This Is Ohio by Matt Jackford.
The story was produced by me, Jack Schuler,
And me, Doug Swift.
and edited by Doug Swift.
To see a multimedia version of this story, including pictures, go to our website, which is attached to
TheReportingProject.org.
Thanks for listening.
See you next time.